I've been tracking the investments of tech billionaires for the past month, and there's a pattern here that explains everything. You see, the people building AI right now are also building companies that will profit from the very problems that AI creates. Let me show you what I mean. This is Sam Altman, the guy who runs OpenAI. One of the key people building the machine expected to eliminate 400 million jobs in the next few years. He's also the founder of WorldCoin.
I helped start a project called WorldCoin a few years ago, but I think this idea that we have a global currency that is outside of the control of any government is a super logical and important step.
A company that will essentially give money to all the people who lost their jobs because of AI. Problem and solution. Same guy. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Energy infrastructure, identity verification, surveillance, data centers, national security. You see, hidden behind this smokescreen of complexity and calculated public optimism, there's a pattern. The story being told to the public, that is, regulators, government officials, and everyday people, is the promise of an infinite utopia.
Universal basic income, cure a bunch of diseases, this cancer and that one, and heart disease, important new scientific discoveries, very high quality healthcare, a more equal world.
Universal extreme wealth for everybody.
Meanwhile, the private conversations about this technology are about extinction.
There is also a longer-term existential threat that will arise when we create digital beings that are more intelligent than ourselves. We have no idea whether we can stay in control.
About the death of democracy, about merging humans with machines.
I think AI will probably, most likely sort of lead to the end of the world.
And here's what should concern you. Whether AI creates an infinite utopia or a total apocalypse, it doesn't matter. They win either way. For every major problem AI creates, they're already positioned to profit from the solution. And us, everyday people, taxpayers, the middle class, the working class, we're taking on all the risk. Let me show you how.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Let me walk you through the full picture, because once you see all of this, you can't unsee it. Obviously, there's a lot of players in AI, right? The people building it and the people funding it. But for this specific story, I want to zoom in on two key players that are central to everything that is happening right now. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, whom we've already met, and Peter Thiel, a tech billionaire who wields an immense amount of power in the current Trump administration. Why? Well, for starters, he practically funded J.D. Vance's entire political career. But more importantly, Peter Thiel is the co-founder of Palantir, an AI company that recently secured a $10 billion 10-year contract with the US military, essentially to be their sole provider of war and surveillance technology. But we'll come back to Thiel's political ambitions later. For now, what's important to know is that Thiel and Altman are not separate actors. Their relationship actually goes way back to 2012. Right after Altman sold his first startup, Looped, Thiel saw potential in him, and he decided to give him $21 million of his own money so that Altman could start his own venture capital firm. And that marked the beginning of a long-term and deep relationship between these two people. Now, radiating out from them are a series of investments of companies that will solve the problems that AI is going to create. Three problems, specifically. The first two, economic collapse and identity verification. Now, I understand hearing someone on the internet say we're on the verge of an economic collapse sounds like nonsense you should dismiss, but hear me out for a second, because it's actually quite simple to understand. The old deal was this. You go to school, you get a job. The job pays you money. You use that money to buy goods and services from businesses, and then that money circles back into the public and the private sector, and the economy goes on. Now, if you have an AI that can essentially replace all human cognitive labor, meaning it can do work better, faster, and cheaper than any human would, which this is literally the stated mission of these AI companies, then companies would be incentivized to fire people and make more profit short term. But then regular people lose their paychecks. And if people have no money, then they can't buy things. And if they can't buy things, that means companies don't have customers, and thus economic collapse. And this is not speculation. Reports from McKinsey, Goldman Sachs, and even the International Monetary Fund have come out and estimated that 400 to 800 million jobs could be replaced by 2030. So what's the solution to this? Well, one solution is WorldCoin. WorldCoin is designed to be a global currency that everyone on Earth can access, regardless of what country they're in what government they're under, or whether they even have a bank account. Sounds kind of like Bitcoin, right? But here's where it gets weird and sci-fi. In order to get WorldCoin, you have to scan your eyes through one of these orbs. This creates a biometric ID that proves you're human and not AI. The idea is very simple. As AI makes it harder to tell humans from machines, especially on the internet, and as AI takes people's jobs, everyone on Earth will need two things: digital proof that you are in fact human, and a universal basic income distributed through a cryptocurrency. And that is exactly what World is building.
We believe that, and I think at this point it's fairly obvious, that in the coming years, 90+% of everything we interact with and see will be somewhat created or enhanced by AI. And that is a problem. We are faced with two options. Either we will enforce government KYC at a pretty large scale for many things that we use, or we use WorldID.
And of course, who funded and co-founded WorldCoin? Good old Sam Altman. So yeah, the guy actively leading the race to build the AI machine that can take people's jobs, and the guy who created the AI slot machine that basically makes it hard to tell what is real and what isn't on the internet, is the same guy positioning himself to own the financial system and be the authority on what is real and what isn't on the internet. Problem and solution, same guy. Problem number 3, energy crisis. So by now, you've probably already seen the headlines or seen the memes about how much energy AI consumes. But I want to really put this into perspective so we understand the scale of it. The standard Google search consumes 0.3 watt-hours of energy. The standard search on an LLM tool like ChatGPT consumes 2.9 watt-hours of energy. That is 10 times the amount of energy for a simple action like that. Now, multiply that by the hundreds of millions of daily active users that tools like ChatGPT already have, and imagine integrating that into the workflows of multinational corporations, governments, and so on. That is a lot of energy.
And the big problem is we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? For AI to really be as big as we want to have it.
Double the amount of energy. That is what the US needs to build in the next couple of years in order to keep up with China in the global AI race. Now, the thing is, if we try to do that with the current infrastructure that we have, that is burning coal and natural gases, we would quite literally destroy the planet in the meantime. So what is the solution? Nuclear energy.
I think we need to get to fusion as fast as possible, where you basically knock two small atoms together and it makes a bunch of energy, but no carbon, very clean, doesn't really harm the environment, and power can become like abundant and pretty limitless on Earth.
In 2021, Sam Altman invested $375 million into Helion Energy, a nuclear fusion startup. This has been his largest personal investment to date. And with the help of Peter Thiel's investment firm, Mythical Capital, they've been able to raise $570 million thus far. The promise is quite compelling. Nuclear fusion by 2028. And Altman has even signed a contract to power Microsoft through nuclear fusion by 2028. The problem is that this is not real. We've not been able to generate electricity through nuclear fusion ever. And many scientists believe this timeline is completely ridiculous. Let me read you what Daniel Jaspy, the principal researcher at Princeton's physics lab for over 25 years, had to say. He called it voodoo science, and he went on to call people like Sam Altman, who promise clean energy through nuclear fusion, voodoo priest promoters who are trying to cast a spell over credulous investors and politicians. Now look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to understand nuclear physics, so if that's your cup of tea, please debate me in the comments and tell me your thoughts. Here's where I'm at though. I hope Sam Altman is right. I hope we get nuclear fusion by 2028. That would be amazing for Earth. The problem is that in the meantime, the race continues. These AI companies have created a massive shortage of energy and they need to build these massive data centers. And how are they going to power them? Coal.
We are going to allow them to go on a very rapid basis to build their plant, build the electric generating plant. They can fuel it with anything they want, and they may have coal as a backup. Good, clean coal,
In November 2025, President Trump signed Executive Order 14241, which effectively allows big tech to bypass all environmental regulations and build their data centers with whatever fuel they want. So yes, they're burning good, clean coal to power the AI data centers while selling us the promise of a nuclear fusion energy. Energy that does not exist yet, and we don't even know if it will exist. But it gets even better, because in order to power these nuclear energy reactors, you need a very specialized form of uranium. It's called high-assay low-enriched uranium. HALEU for short. I know this sounds super technical, but stay with me. Before, the only way we could get this type of uranium was to buy it from the Russian government. Peter Thiel did not like that, so he decided to build his own company from scratch called General Matter. And this is where the cherry really gets placed on top. In January 2026, just a couple of weeks ago, the Department of Energy handed General Matter a $900 million contract. That's taxpayer money. Let that sink in. First, they build AI companies that create a massive shortage of energy. They promise us a nuclear future with a theoretical type of energy that we've never been able to create before. So they meet the demand through coal, which we know destroys the planet, and to put the cherry on top, they're going to fund the infrastructure for the nuclear future with taxpayer dollars, while they own it. Problem and solution. Same people. Okay, so I need to introduce you to this concept that comes from the book Skin in the Game by Nassim Taleb. Taleb is a former Wall Street trader who turned into one of the most respected authors on risk and randomness. He correctly predicted the 2008 financial crisis, and since then, his entire body of work focuses on one question: what happens when the people in power don't bear the consequences of their decisions? The idea is simple. In a healthy system, there should be a connection between decisions and consequences. In other words, if you're the one making the decision, you should also be the one that bears the consequences if things go wrong. For example, imagine a business owner that makes terrible business decisions. She serves disgusting food, she treats her staff poorly, she manages her time poorly, the bathrooms are never clean. What happens to her? She would go out of business. And then she would have to move home because she lost all her life savings, and she has to explain to her parents why she's moving back in. Her survival is directly tied to her performance and the quality of her decisions. That is what Taleb calls having skin in the game. Now I want you to imagine someone with the power to make decisions that impacts millions of people. But if their decisions go catastrophically wrong, they don't suffer the consequences. They can just walk away while others suffer from the consequences. Taleb calls these people interventionistas, people who intervene in complex systems like economies, technology, or entire societies without bearing the consequences of their interventions. He argues that the reason systems improve is not because the people that make mistakes learn to be better. It's because those who made fatal mistakes get eliminated from the system. For example, imagine a pilot who's completely incompetent. A pilot who takes tons of risks and puts them on other people, right? Maybe he's a drunkard. Maybe he skips steps in the pre-flight checks. Maybe he cheated in his examinations. That pilot is taking a lot of risks. And sure, he might kill a lot of people in the process, but he also kills himself. Thus, he has skin in the game. And although he won't learn from his mistakes, because he's dead, the system learns. They might improve the process for vetting pilots. They might change the system for doing pre-flight checks so that it's not dependent on the pilot. Whatever it may be, the system evolves to eliminate those mistakes from the system, and it gets better at doing what the system is supposed to do. Now let's go back to our pattern from earlier so we really understand how this is happening in AI right now. Okay, so we know OpenAI is designing a technology literally to outperform humans at most economically valuable work. That is on their mission statement. And we know that McKinsey, Goldman Sachs, and the IMF predict that 400 to 800 million jobs could be wiped out in the next 5 years. That's the problem they're creating. But Sam Altman is also the co-founder of WorldCoin, a company designed to solve two problems that AI creates. First, how do we know what's real when AI can look like us and talk like us on the internet? And two, when AI takes all the jobs, how do we eat? How do we make money? Now, if you were playing devil's advocate, you might say, Well, if Sam Altman knows that AI is going to break the labor market, isn't building a solution to that actually a good thing? Isn't that a responsible thing to do? And this is where Taleb's concepts really illuminate the issue here. In a healthy system, a system with skin in the game, if you break the labor market, if you destroy what it means to be human on the internet, if you collapse the economy, you should face real consequences. You should lose your reputation. You should lose your wealth. Real, tangible consequences. But that's not what's happening right now. Instead, the system allows people like Sam Altman, like Peter Thiel, like all of these tech billionaires to transfer risk onto society while they capture all of the upside. Think about it. If OpenAI creates this beautiful utopia that they claim is going to happen with clean energy and solutions to cancer and all that stuff, he wins. He's a trillionaire. He becomes immortalized as this guy that created the God machine, and everything is great. But if AI collapses the job market, disrupts what it means to be human, and we need identity verification, if it creates an energy crisis, he still wins. He's positioned to profit from all those scenarios. Meanwhile, all that risk is transferred to you, to me, the users, everyday people. I mean, think about the risk we're taking on scanning our eyeballs into one of these orbs. First of all, you're creating a permanent biological ID that you could never change. And if that database gets breached, good luck changing your password if your password is your eyeball. You're becoming dependent on a private tech company for your identity and potentially your income. And you're trusting that that system won't be weaponized, abused, or manipulated in some sort of way. That is a lot of risk, a lot of potential consequences that are taken on by you, by me, by taxpayers, by everyday people. Now, here's the thing. I don't think these people are villains, despite how this video might have made it seem. I don't think Sam Altman or Peter Thiel or any of these dudes wake up in the morning thinking, how do I screw over society today? I believe they actually think they're solving problems and doing humanity justice. And maybe they are, but that's not the point. The point is, we've built a system that allows a small group of people to make irreversible decisions about the future of humanity without bearing the consequences of those decisions. The point is, we've designed a system where the people navigating the ship are not even on the fucking ship. Now, I want to be really clear about what the point that Taleb is making here, because it's not about having Sam Altman learn from his mistakes or pay the price, learn his lesson. It's not about punishment. His point is that in a healthy system, a system with skin in the game, the people taking massive risks with the environment or the economy should face consequences if those risks go terribly wrong. Why? Because when those risks exist, people are cautious. People think twice before taking a massive bet on behalf of all of humanity. When those consequences aren't there, they're actually incentivized to take those risks and just play capitalism chess to the highest level possible where they win in either scenario, no matter how this plays out. Now, I'm gonna tell you the truth. If you haven't spent at least a couple of sleepless nights thinking about AI and the second order consequences of what this technology means, you likely don't understand it well enough yet. And that's okay, because frankly, I was there just a couple of months ago. What you can do is learn. Explore some of the resources that I'll link in the bio, and if you gained some perspective, if you gained some insight, some new way of seeing the world through this video, I would ask that you do the simple, free thing and share this video. Share it with your 2 smartest friends, put it in the family group chat, have conversations about this. What we need to do right now is shift what is called the Overton window. The Overton window is a concept that describes the topics that are socially acceptable to talk about and to discuss without being seen as a crazy person. And right now, AI is one of those where if you talk about it, you might be seen as a bit of a bizarre, crazy person. And slowly it's shifting to becoming more mainstream, but it needs to be mainstream because things are happening at a rate that is incredibly fast. I've actually moved my entire life to San Francisco for a couple of months so I can learn from and be surrounded by the people working on AI safety and trying to communicate the risks of this technology and ensuring it goes well. Yeah, if you found this video valuable, thank you so much for your time. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Peace.